Dr. Zena Voss stood before the gleaming doors of Earth's first interstellar veterinary clinic, her 4 tentacle-like appendages adjusting the ceremonial robe she wore for the occasion. The iridescent fabric shifted colors with each movement, a sign of her prestigious status as the Proximan Medical Council's top xenoveterinarian. After treating everything from plasma-breathing dragons of Kepler, 186F to the crystalline deer of Europa, she felt more than prepared for Earth's supposedly challenging fauna. The facility, a joint venture between Earth's Veterinary Association and the Galactic Medical Council, represented the first step in sharing veterinary knowledge across the stars. Dr. Voss had been chosen to lead this initiative due to her extensive experience with cross-species medical care and her ability to adapt to different planetary environments. "Welcome to Earth, Dr. Voss," said Administrator Russell, a tall human with graying hair and kind eyes. "We're honored to have someone of your expertise joining us. Though I should warn you, Earth animals might surprise you." Dr. Voss's skin rippled with amusement, creating waves of purple across her normally blue surface. "Administrator, I've treated beings that exist in 5 dimensions simultaneously. I doubt Earth's creatures will present much of a challenge." The administrator's smile held a hint of mystery that Dr. Voss would later recognize as suppressed laughter. "Your first patient arrives in an hour. Nothing too challenging, just a routine checkup for a house cat." In her preparation for Earth assignment, Dr. Voss had studied terrestrial species extensively. Cats, according to the data, were small predatory mammals that humans had domesticated thousands of years ago. Simple creatures, really, compared to the sentient gas clouds she treated last month. The examination room was equipped with both Earth standard and alien medical technology. Dr. Voss's personal medical scanner, a device that could analyze cellular structure down to the quantum level, hung ready at her side. She had insisted on bringing her own equipment, though the humans had assured her it wasn't necessary. When her first patient arrived, Dr. Voss was reviewing feline anatomy one final time. The cat carrier's door opened, and out stepped a magnificent black cat with eyes like polished emeralds. Its owner, a young woman named Rachel White, watched nervously as the cat surveyed the room. "This is Midnight," Rachel introduced. "She's usually very sweet, but she doesn't like changes." Dr. Voss extended one of her appendages in what she had learned was a non-threatening gesture. "Greetings, small one. I am a healer." Midnight's tail began to twitch. "Perhaps," Rachel suggested, "we should start with Dash." But Dr. Voss had already activated her scanner, confident in her abilities. The beam of soft blue light swept over Midnight, who had been sitting calmly on the examination table. Had been, because in the next instant, the cat seemed to defy several laws of physics simultaneously. Midnight twisted in a way that should have been impossible for a vertebrate, becoming what appeared to be liquid shadow. She launched herself not at the scanner, but at Dr. Voss's face, specifically targeting the sensitive sensory nodes that ringed her head. "Fascinating." Dr. Voss managed to exclaim before 8 needle-sharp claws found purchase in her epidermis. Her skin's automatic defense mechanism activated, secreting a mild paralytic agent, which had absolutely no effect on the whirlwind of fur and fury attached to her face. Rachel rushed forward. "I'm so sorry. Here, let me dash." "No need." Dr. Voss insisted, her professional pride taking over even as Midnight began what felt like an attempt to redecorate her facial features. "This is merely an unexpected behavioral response. I can handle OUCH." The cat had somehow found the exact spot where Dr. Voss's neural clusters were most concentrated, a vulnerability she hadn't even known she had. Her scanner, still running, was producing readings that made no sense, quantum fluctuations that shouldn't be possible in a biological entity. It took 3 staff members, Rachel's expert cat whispering, and a bag of treats to finally detach Midnight from Dr. Voss's face. As the cat sat contentedly eating her rewards, Dr. Voss stared at her scanner readings in disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. According to her instruments, for a brief moment during the chaos, Midnight had existed in 3 places simultaneously. The quantum readings suggested capabilities that defied current understanding of biological limitations. Administrator Russell appeared in the doorway, likely drawn by the commotion. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes twinkled. "Everything all right, Dr. Voss?" "Just a routine checkup, remember?" Dr. Voss's skin had shifted to a pale lavender, the proximate equivalent of a blush. "I may need to revise some of my assumptions about Earth fauna." As Midnight purred innocently in her carrier, Dr. Voss made her first entry in her Earth research log. Hypothesis: Earth cats may be more than they appear. Further investigation required. Approach with extreme caution and possibly body armor. The rest of her shift was uneventful, but Dr. Voss couldn't shake the feeling that she had stumbled onto something profound. Either Earth's cats were far more complex than anyone had realized, or she had just experienced the most elegant form of humbling the universe had yet devised. As she reviewed her scanner's data that evening, she realized this assignment might be the greatest challenge, and opportunity, of her career. The learning curve. The news of Dr. Voss's first feline encounter spread through the galactic medical community faster than a quantum transmission. Within days, her personal communications device was flooded with messages from colleagues across 17 star systems. Some offered sympathy, others advice, but most simply couldn't believe that one of the galaxy's most renowned xenoveterinarians had been bested by a small Earth predator. "You must understand," Dr. Voss explained during an emergency conference call with the Proximan Medical Council, her skin cycling through frustrated shades of blue and violet, "these creatures possess capabilities that defy our current scientific understanding. The quantum readings alone dash." "Dr. Voss," interrupted Chief Medical Officer Crixus, their crystalline form glinting with skepticism, "we've reviewed your data. While unusual, these readings could easily be attributed to equipment malfunction or environmental interference." Dr. Voss felt her professional reputation slipping away with each passing moment. But she knew what she had seen and experienced. Her facial sensory nodes still tingled from their encounter with Midnight's claws. The next few weeks brought a parade of feline patients, each seemingly more determined than the last to prove that the laws of physics were merely polite suggestions. There was the orange tabby who somehow managed to teleport behind her despite being in a sealed examination chamber. The seemingly sweet Persian who phased through 3 different types of restraint fields. And most memorably, the Siamese twins who orchestrated what could only be described as a synchronized assault on her medical equipment. Dr. Voss began modifying her approach. She installed quantum stabilization fields, enhanced her scanner's capabilities, and even developed a new type of protective coating for her skin. Yet somehow, the cats always found a way around her precautions. "Perhaps," suggested her human assistant, Tom Fletcher, after watching a particularly agile calico reduce an expensive alien diagnostic tool to spare parts, "you're overthinking this." Dr. Voss, who was attempting to recalibrate what remained of her equipment, turned all 4 eye stalks toward him. "Overthinking? These beings can apparently violate the conservation of energy, manipulate spatial dimensions, and target specific weaknesses in technology they've never encountered before. How does one overthink that?" Tom smiled, reaching down to pet the calico, who was now purring innocently in his lap. "Have you tried treats?" "Treats?" Dr. Voss's skin rippled with disbelief. "You suggest bribing these reality-defying entities with processed food products?" "Works every time," Tom said, demonstrating by tossing a treat into the air. The calico caught it with surprising grace, then looked at Dr. Voss with what she could have sworn was a smug expression. Swallowing her pride, Dr. Voss began incorporating Earth techniques into her practice. She learned about cat psychology from local veterinarians, studied cat body language, and yes, started keeping treats in her medical coat. Her success rate improved, though the cat still managed to surprise her regularly. The turning point came during a routine examination of a rescue cat named Ghost. The white-furred feline had been watching Dr. Voss with unusual intensity throughout the checkup, showing none of the typical signs of feline resistance. As she completed her scans, Ghost reached out and deliberately placed a paw on her appendage. In that moment, Dr. Voss's scanner recorded something extraordinary, a brief but clear pattern of organized quantum fluctuations, almost like communication. Before she could process what this meant, a transmission came through from the clinic's front desk. They had an emergency. Multiple pets, both Earth and alien species, were being brought in with mysterious symptoms. Dr. Voss looked at Ghost, who was still watching her with those knowing eyes. For the first time, she wondered if there was more to Earth's cats than even their quantum anomalies suggested. Perhaps these creatures weren't just defying physics, they were operating on a level of reality that her advanced alien science was only beginning to comprehend. As she hurried to prepare for the incoming emergency cases, Dr. Voss made another entry in her research log: new hypothesis, Earth's cats may not be defying universal laws, but rather operating under laws we have yet to discover. Related observation, they seem to know exactly when they're needed. Understanding through adversity. The emergency ward of Earth's first interstellar veterinary clinic had never been so busy. Dr. Voss moved swiftly between examination rooms, her skin shifting through worried shades of deep blue as she observed the growing number of patients. In one room, a Martian vapor hound lay listless, its usually energetic plasma trails barely flickering. In another, a German shepherd whimpered softly, its vital signs erratic. Most concerning were the cats. For the first time since her arrival on Earth, they weren't causing chaos. Instead, they lay unnaturally still, their quantum readings almost completely flat. Dr. Voss. Tom rushed into the ward, clutching a data pad. Dr. William Blackwood is here from the Global Veterinary Institute. He's been tracking similar cases across Earth. Dr. Blackwood proved to be a tall, distinguished man with salt and pepper hair and eyes that sparked with intelligence. He carried himself with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent decades in his field. Fascinating presentation, isn't it? He said, reviewing Dr. Voss's preliminary data. The illness affects both terrestrial and extraterrestrial species, yet manifests differently in each. The only common factor is a progressive dampening of their unique biological signatures. Dr. Voss extended her sensory appendages toward a particularly affected Jovian crystal deer. It's as if something is suppressing their very life force. But what could affect such diverse species in such a specific way? That's not even the strangest part, Dr. Blackwood added, pulling up a global map dotted with outbreak locations. Look at the pattern. The distribution of cases formed a distinct geometric pattern, one that Dr. Voss recognized from her advanced xenobiology studies. This is impossible. This matches the theoretical energy distribution pattern of Dash. The ancestrals, Dr. Blackwood finished. Yes, I've been consulting with archaeologists. These patterns align perfectly with suspected landing sites of an ancient alien species that visited Earth roughly 9,000 years ago. Dr. Voss's skin rippled with realization. The same time period when cats were first domesticated in human settlements. Their discussion was interrupted by a commotion from one of the recovery rooms. Ghost, the white cat who had shown such unusual behavior earlier, had somehow escaped quarantine and was moving purposefully through the ward. Despite showing symptoms of the mysterious illness, the cat maintained an air of deliberate intent. Dr. Voss and Dr. Blackwood followed as Ghost made her way to the clinic's ancient artifacts room, a section containing historical veterinary implements from various cultures. The cat stopped before a display case containing what had been classified as ceremonial healing tokens from early human civilizations. Dr. Voss's scanner, which she had learned to keep running constantly around cats, began registering familiar quantum fluctuations. But this time, they were emanating from both Ghost and the artifacts. The patterns, Dr. Voss whispered, her skin paling to an almost translucent blue. They're identical to the energy signatures we're seeing in the affected animals. Dr. Blackwood leaned in closer, his eyes widening. These aren't healing tokens. They're keys, quantum keys. The ancestrals must have left them behind, and they're still active after all this time. But why are they affecting the animals now? Dr. Voss wondered aloud. Her question was answered by a soft chime from her scanner. The quantum fluctuations had changed, forming a clear pattern that her advanced equipment could finally decode. The message was simple but profound: the Guardians require renewal. Ghost sat before them, green eyes gleaming with ancient intelligence, and meowed once, a sound that somehow carried the weight of millennia. Dr. Voss's scanner recorded quantum entanglement patterns that suggested the cat wasn't just communicating, but connecting with something far older and more vast than any of them had imagined. The mystery of Earth's cats was beginning to unravel, but with each answer came new, more profound questions. As Dr. Voss updated her research log that evening, her appendages trembled slightly. Critical discovery: Earth's cats appear to be more than companions or pets. Evidence suggests they may be guardians, left behind by the ancestrals to watch over Earth's dimensional boundaries. Current crisis may indicate these ancient protections are failing. Question remains: what exactly are they protecting Earth from? The Galactic Connection. The ancient artifacts room had been transformed into a makeshift command center. Holographic displays showed spreading patterns of the mysterious illness across Earth and neighboring colonies, while quantum sensors tracked increasingly erratic energy fluctuations. Dr. Voss hadn't slept in what humans would call 3 days, her skin a pale, exhausted gray as she studied the data streams. Ghost sat regally on the central console, seemingly unconcerned by the growing crisis. Around the room, other cats had gathered, some from the clinic, others appearing mysteriously through ways that even Dr. Voss's advanced scanners couldn't detect. Each feline positioned itself near one of the ancient artifacts, creating a pattern that matched stellar configurations from 9 millennia ago. The quantum resonance is building, Dr. Blackwood announced, monitoring a particularly sensitive piece of equipment. Whatever these artifacts are meant to do, they're becoming more active. Dr. Voss's research had revealed that the ancestrals were known across the galaxy as the great civilization that had seeded the stars with life, but had mysteriously vanished eons ago. Their technology had been based on manipulation of quantum fields and dimensional barriers, science that even modern galactic civilization was only beginning to understand. "Look at this," Tom called out, pointing to a historical dataset. Every 9,000 years, there are records of similar mass animal illnesses. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets, medieval chronicles, even colonial veterinary reports, all describing the same symptoms we're seeing now. Dr. Voss's appendages trembled with excitement. A cycle. The quantum barriers need periodic reinforcement, and the cats, they're not just guardians, they're the key. As if responding to her words, Ghost stood and meowed, a sound that seemed to resonate on multiple frequencies. The other cats joined in, creating a harmony that Dr. Voss's instruments registered as a complex quantum signature. The ancient artifacts began to glow with an inner light. "Remarkable," Dr. Blackwood breathed. "They're accessing quantum fields that shouldn't even exist in our dimensional plane." Dr. Voss's scanner revealed the truth: each cat was serving as a living quantum processor, channeling and directing energy flows that could reshape reality itself. The artifacts weren't just keys, they were nodes in a vast network that stretched across Earth and into space, maintaining barriers that protected not just Earth, but this entire sector of the galaxy. But from what? Dr. Voss wondered aloud. What requires such elaborate protections? Her answer came in the form of a shimmer in the air, a distortion in reality that her instruments registered as a dimensional tear. Through it, for just a moment, she glimpsed something that defied description: vast, ancient entities that existed between dimensions, held at bay by barriers of pure quantum energy. The cat's eyes glowed with an inner light as they worked in concert to repair and reinforce these cosmic walls. The ancestrals didn't just leave, Dr. Voss realized. They ascended to a higher dimensional plane. But in doing so, they discovered they weren't alone in the multiverse. The cats, they're not just pets or guardians. They're sentinels, created to protect our reality from forces that exist beyond conventional spacetime. Ghost turned to look at her, and for a moment, Dr. Voss felt the weight of eons in that gaze. The cat's quantum signature pulsed in a pattern that her scanner translated as both a confirmation and a warning: the barriers must be maintained. The sleepers must not wake. Around them, the assembled cats began their work in earnest. The artifacts hummed with power as ancient systems reactivated. Across Earth and beyond, the mysterious illness began to fade as the quantum barrier strengthened, reinforced by feline guardians who had faithfully maintained their vigil for thousands of years. Dr. Voss made a new entry in her research log, her appendages steady despite the magnitude of what she was recording. Full understanding achieved: Earth's cats are not simply companions who adapted to human civilization. They are sophisticated quantum beings, created by the ancestrals as guardians of dimensional stability. Their apparent defiance of physics is actually their natural ability to manipulate quantum fields. Their domestication was not random, they chose to live among humans, protecting them from threats they never knew existed. Question: how do we assist these guardians in their ancient duty without disrupting the delicate balance they maintain? Beyond understanding. 6 months after the quantum barrier crisis, Earth's first interstellar veterinary clinic had changed dramatically. The ancient artifacts room had been converted into a specialized quantum monitoring station, where Dr. Voss and her team tracked the health of both the dimensional barriers and their feline guardians. The regular examination rooms now featured subtle quantum field generators that helped cats maintain their energy levels between their periodic barrier maintenance duties. Remarkable, mused Dr. Voss as she reviewed the latest data with Administrator Russell. Her skin shimmered with excited patterns of blue and gold. Even after everything we've learned, they still managed to surprise us. The screens showed cats across the planet, each one a point of quantum light in a vast network of dimensional stability. The recent crisis had forced them to reveal their true nature, but instead of changing their behavior, they had simply incorporated their newly acknowledged duties into their existing routines, napping in sunbeams one moment, reinforcing reality's foundations the next. The real question, Administrator Russell said, watching Ghost patrol the monitoring station with characteristic feline dignity, is how we managed to miss it for so long. The signs were there: their impossible movements, their uncanny awareness, their ability to appear exactly when and where they're needed. Dr. Voss's skin rippled with amusement. Humans had a saying that cats domesticated themselves. You were closer to the truth than you knew. They chose to live among humans because it positioned them perfectly to maintain the barrier network while being cared for and loved. It was, as humans would say, a win-win situation. The clinic had become a hub for a new field of veterinary science, quantum Felidae studies. Dr. Voss's research had revolutionized both Earth and alien veterinary practices. Her papers on the quantum nature of cats had earned her renewed respect in the galactic medical community, though some colleagues still refused to believe her findings until they experienced Earth's cats for themselves. A commotion from the front desk interrupted their discussion. A new client had arrived, a nervous-looking alien from the Andromeda galaxy, clutching a carrier containing what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary tabby cat. My first Earth cat, the alien explained, its translator struggling to convey its anxiety. I was told they make wonderful companions, but I'm not sure I'm prepared. Dr. Voss smiled, her skin glowing with warm, reassuring colors. No one is ever truly prepared for their first cat. That's part of their charm. Would you like to know what I've learned about caring for these remarkable beings? The alien leaned forward eagerly, all 6 eyes focused intently on Dr. Voss. First, she began, understand that you're not just adopting a pet, you're becoming part of an ancient legacy. Your cat will protect you from threats you cannot see, maintain the fabric of reality while sleeping in your favorite chair, and occasionally knock things off high surfaces for reasons we still don't fully comprehend. Tom, who had been monitoring the quantum fields, chuckled. Don't forget the part about them being able to locate treats through solid matter. Ah yes, Dr. Voss continued, her skin flickering with mirth. They possess capabilities that defy our most advanced science. My advice? Don't try to fully understand them. Even with all our knowledge of their true nature, cats remain wonderfully mysterious. Simply provide them with love, respect, and regular meals, and they will guard both your home and reality itself. The alien looked down at its new companion with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The tabby cat gazed back, pupils dilating slightly as it assessed its new guardian's quantum signature. Later that evening, as Dr. Voss made her final rounds, she found Ghost sitting in her office, purring contentedly. The cat's quantum signature pulsed in a pattern that her instruments now recognized as approval. "I finally understand," Dr. Voss said softly, reaching out to scratch behind Ghost's ears, a gesture she had learned was appreciated by even the most cosmic of felines. The greatest wisdom lies in accepting that some mysteries should remain mysteries. Though I do have one question. Ghost's ears perked up. Why do you still knock my medical scanner off the table every morning? The cat's only response was a slow blink and a purr that registered on multiple dimensional frequencies. Dr. Voss made her final entry in her research log. Conclusion: after extensive study of Earth's quantum feline guardians, I have learned that true understanding sometimes means accepting that we cannot understand everything. These remarkable beings will continue to protect our reality while pretending to be simple house pets, and perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Though I still recommend wearing protective gear during routine examinations. As if to emphasize this point, Ghost casually batted Dr. Voss's scanner off the desk, then teleported away to chase quantum fluctuations only cats could see. Dr. Voss's skin rippled with laughter as she retrieved the device, now fully at peace with the wonderful absurdity of being an alien veterinarian on a planet where the cats were far more alien than she could ever be.